Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy, sharing with you today 8 mini Slimline cards for graduation gifts. I started with Colorado Craft Company's Lovely Legs graduation stamp set, stamping that out. Well, I guess I did 2 panels on Bristol Smooth cardstock here, and then I will do 2 panels on Canson XL watercolor cardstock. The Bristol Smooth, I used Lawn Fawn's Jet Black ink because it is both alcohol marker friendly and waterproof, so you can watercolor over the top of it. I used the VersaFine Onyx Black and some clear embossing powder on the Canson XL watercolor paper. And then I do go in and add the sentiment on the top of this one with that Onyx Black and clear embossing powder. I did some clear embossing ink and clear embossing powder, and then I did some gold. I like to switch things up. Variety is the spice of life. I'm watercoloring these today with some Brutus Monroe aqua pigments and some Tim Holtz Distress Reinker. The reinker is Black Soot and Vintage Photo. The green here it was a limited release Leprechaun, like a St. Patrick's Day release. This one was called Leprechaun. It is shimmery. And then I added in their plain green one to give it a little bit more color variation. I probably should have gone in with another shade or maybe added a little bit of black to that green to get a better contrast for some shading and such, but it is what it is. I do come in with a Zig Real Brush marker in 071 for my skin tone here. I picked a super light skin tone for these because I can go back over them with a darker shade of something if I need to change the skin tone for the recipient. It's what I do. It's probably why I love the Lovely Legs series so much, because I don't have to worry about hair color. I like to make my cards, tailor them to my recipient, and so it's easier if I don't have to worry about hair color. I am using some Accent Opaque Digital 100-pound cardstock for my card bases here. I had decided I wanted to do a tri-panel, so twofold. That way you can tuck the gift underneath one panel, or, as such. It was, in my mind it was working. That's how I was planning it. I did go with a 6 1/4 inch by a 3 1/4 inch finished card, hoping that a dollar bill I'm sure they would love to just get $1 for graduation. Money would fit in there better, or a check would fit in there better than a 6 by 3. My card panel ended up, the cut one was, I did an 8 1/2 piece wide, and then I cut it at 6 1/4, and I scored those at 3 1/4 inches, and then 2 inches from the other end. So I scored it at 3 1/4 and then 6 1/2. I cut my panel fronts here using the Mini Slim panels from Trinity Stamps for my mini slim sizes. And then they also have those in the scallop one I used for one of those. And then for my images, I actually cut those using, I think it was the 4th and the 5th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 6th and the 7th, or the 7th and the 8th one in for the images, and then the ones that were cut with the smaller one, I could cut with the one size up for the border. And then because I like to cheat when I get these new, I don't cut them all apart right away. This way I can make little mini frames with them. I like doing this. It's kind of how I roll. And if you have not checked out Trinity Stamps, like their plain dies, they have that embossed edge, and they just look so elegant. I love them. And it, cuts down on my frustration with my not cutting anything straight or square problem. I hope I'm not the only one that has that issue. I know my nanny has that issue. She says that too. I can't ever cut a straight line, even with a guillotine cutter or the other kind of cutter. Yeah, I'm the same way. So I had kind of shopped my stash. So the black paper is multiple companies all over the place. I was trying to use up some of the scraps that I had on hand. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do for my, the image in my head and what it was coming out to on paper was not working out. I have days like this, and this just happened to be over 3 days, but I ended up doing a card in between these because I was so frustrated. It's, all good. So the coaster there is actually a ceramic coaster. So I set my candle on top of that and lit it on top of that. That way I'm less likely to start anything in my scrapbook space on fire. And yes, you saw me break off the handle to my little pouring spoon. Let's just say that's the kind of day I was having. All right. So, moral of the story is make sure that your spoon is heated and the wax is not stuck, because it sticks like super glue and then you break the handle off. I am using some double-sided foam adhesive sheets here that I got off of Amazon. I will try to link them on my blog post. I am not promising you anything today. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I had actually got the graduation hat stamp for the wax pours on clearance last summer sometime. I think I paid $2 for it. I wasn't impressed with it. It's very plain. The graduation hat sticks out, but there's nothing else to it. I guess I have a J and an S, and they have that scrolly, fine detail in them that I love so much about a wax seal. And these were just lackluster. I just wasn't impressed because I was planning on doing a wax seal on each of the front of these. And then I was kind of over it after that first one. Well, you'll see why I was over it in about 2 seconds here. We'll just say sometimes things don't work the way we want them to. And this was just, yeah. Okay, so I'm using my reverse tweezers to hold it for my handle. And oh look, it fell out of the reverse tweezers onto my card base that I already glued my image to, which it's also glued on there crooked because I must have bumped it and wiggled it. And look, you don't actually need to have the little wax melt into the spoon or the candle. You can just use your heat gun to melt that wax piece. Granted, it takes a little bit longer to melt it if you're melting it straight on. I did do that for one of them. And so, yeah. So I had to abandon ship on my wax melts because I was just, I was frustrated. So I decided to make some tassels instead. I will actually have a pop-out video of how to make the tassel in real time. I actually did slow this one down here for you. I think it's only at 1.5 times speed. So if you want to see it in real time, I will do that for you. But if you, catch on fast enough, it's a fairly simple. I just took one of those pre-cut black pieces that I was planning on using for my sentiments for my card, and I wrapped it, I think about 6 times around it. I threaded through the piece of embossing thread. It's not embossing, embroidery thread, and made the little, string for the tassel, and then just slipped this one up and around. And yes, everything was sticking to my magnet. I'm telling you, some days I wonder why I think making cards is relaxing, because Frustration. Sometimes it's just frustration. It's probably a lack of, I don't know, sleep. I probably should have just taken a nap. It's all good. I ended up trimming these up just a little bit to make them kind of straight. And I did add a dot of glue on my knot there to, help it stay together. I do plan on making some of these a little bit bigger for some graduation decor that I'm working on for the grad party we are having. I don't know if I'm ready for my oldest one to graduate or not. I'm excited. I don't have to yell at him to get his English homework done anymore. But, it's also that whole, he's growing up. It's all good, right? So I'm just laying out these. None of them I don't think are the same. They're all a little bit different. There is that nice thin border that I used. I popped up the you did it on that one. And then just going from here. So I'm just going to say I struggled with my layouts on these. And I was really rethinking, why did I go with this size? See, you can melt it with that just fine. I did use some perfect pearl powders to try to add some iridescent to that black. I don't know if I loved it. Hence why I remelted it and tried again. And then I didn't like how that looked. And so I did end up cutting that out, like die cutting around it and then cutting a different coordinating cardstock and then popping that up and out a little bit to give it a little bit more of, you'll see, I think right here. Yeah, so I cut it out. And then I hand cut around the wax seal and then I glued it onto the green piece and then I popped that up. I like the finished look a lot better on that one. Sometimes when we, don't like something, we just have to rethink it and go from there. And yeah, I don't know if I really liked how any of my wax sealed tassel cards turned out. I like the tassel on them. I don't know if I loved the wax seal. I think it's because I wasn't in love with the wax seal. It's all good. So all of these are a little bit different. Some of them I did, so it's like a partial flap on the front, so it opens with the full hidden flap. Some of them I glued the flap down so it makes an actual pocket. I did these all differently. So some of them, that pocket is on the inside cover, like the front where the image is. Some of them, that pocket is on the other side, so you have the money sticking underneath your sentiment. I had no rhyme or reason, and I was just adding them to card bases and kind of playing. It's what I do. And then I took out some Trinity stamps, Gold Rush embellishments here, and I added liberally to a bunch of the cards. Some of them I kept it a little bit simpler, like this one. I only did 3. And then I also took out I think this one's called the Lucky Mix or Lucky Clover Mix. I don't remember. But it has an iridescent green and an iridescent white in there. And so it went with the ones that I didn't have any gold on. And then adding all the things. So be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire, I think is what the sentiment is. And so I will continue to add all of these with all the blingy thingies. And then for the insides of the cards, I took a sheet of black cardstock and I put some anti-static powder on it, but I didn't put enough anti-static powder on it. I also dropped the VersaFine watermark ink pad on top of my paper at one point. you know, it had a lot of white speckly flecklies, okay? And I just went with it. You know, uh, some days we just, yeah, we're just done. And I was definitely just done with this whole set. Did they turn out cute in the end? Yes, they did. So to cover up some of those white speckly flecklies, I just took a black alcohol ink marker and colored those white specks black. And you can't tell if you don't know that I colored them black. It's all good. I pulled out a very old Jolene's Boutique sticker set. So these were tassels and diplomas. I did find something similar at the craft store, so they do still make something like these. These are super old. Like, I won them at an Archivers Scrap Fest scrap thingy when Archivers was still around. So it's been a long time. I'm just adding these into the insides of my cards. I cut them with some older spellbinders, label, and or, I think they're like fancy square die thingies. And yes, I hand stamped that one in there on a wish and a prayer. It worked. We're good. So here are the actual finished card fronts. All a little bit different, all similar, but unique in their own ways. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got a couple of ideas. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.